Hey guys, welcome back to another great episode of the Truth of Transformation podcast. Now, today's guest, Lexi Hall, has an amazing transformation story with so many different profound pieces about what it takes to get to a place where you're doing some awesome, incredible stuff with your body, and you'll hear more about that. She lifts heavy stuff, by the way. And she's out of St. Louis training with Doug Schlenk with the Evolve Fitness crew, which is absolutely amazing. And Lexi, welcome to the show. Excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So just give us a backstory, everything that kind of transpired, how the weight came to be, and all of this fun stuff along your now very successful journey.
Yeah, sure. So I guess it starts way back high school, college. I played volleyball all through high school and tennis. I continued that on through intramural in college and was really able to be healthy and be fit naturally. I didn't take a lot of effort, which was really nice at the time. And then I graduated from college and I started working originally in Atlanta in a sales trainee role and still was pretty fit. Didn't really work out a whole lot. And then moved to St. Louis and started as a full-time in sales. And that involved a lot of happy hours, a lot of social events of, football games, hockey games. Everything was really centered around entertaining. And along with that came around drinking as well. And when I moved to St. Louis, I didn't really have any friends. So for social activities, I didn't really have anybody. And I ended up meeting a really good group of friends. But again, all of the activities were centered around going to beer festivals or going to eat. So very quickly I went from weighing probably like 140 pounds to weighing almost 205 pounds. So I just woke up one morning, I guess probably in, I would say 2015. And I just didn't even recognize myself. Felt unconfident in my body. And I knew that I really needed to make a change. So that's sort of where my fitness journey started. And at the time in St. Louis, Orange Theory was brand new and opening. And one of my coworkers was being a founding member and joining the new Orange Theory. And she's like, hey, you should come with me. Come hear all about it. It's this new awesome workout program. There's nothing like it out there. So I went with her to a class. I ended up joining. And I quickly realized that I did not enjoy cardio at all. I enjoyed the weight room portion of the workouts, but not really the rower or the treadmill. And one of the trainers at Orange Theory, he pulled me aside one day and he's like, you're killing yourself in here. You're always working really hard. It's like, but I noticed that you're kind of plateauing. I had lost about probably 10 pounds doing Orange Theory. But wasn't really focusing on my nutrition at that time either. Was really just, going in, giving it my all. And then at the end, if you're familiar with Orange Theory, it tells you how many calories you burned. So basically I would take that number of calories burnt and I would say, okay, great. I just burned 600 calories. Now I can go to Chipotle and eat 600 calories worth of food or whatever.
So put it right back in, right?
Yeah. So it's like, oh, great. I just burnt this many calories. That's fine. I can go eat a snack or whatever. So didn't really have a good relationship with nutrition at that point either. But anyways, my trainer at Orange Theory, he was like, you should really look into some sort of strength training. He's like, your form is pretty decent in the weight room. You seem to enjoy that more. And he's like, I think you would really benefit from some sort of strength training, which led me to joining Evolve in September now of 2016. So when I joined Evolve, I was right around 196 pounds. And they always, whenever you first join, they measure your body fat percentage. They measure your waist, your hips, your thighs, your arms, just to get an overall picture of your starting point.
Sure.
So at that time, I was about 196 pounds and about 34% body fat.
So you've made quite a transformation then, because where are you at now?
So today I am at right around 154 pounds, and my body fat is somewhere between like 16 and 18%.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Yes.
quite the transformation.
Yes,
So
for sure.
I know you've got more to the story, but I do have to back up because you said you literally woke up one morning and didn't recognize yourself. Was it truly just to stand in front of the mirror and just have this epiphany of like, whoa, where did this come from? And something has to change, or were there anything that led up to that?
So it was actually, I was tagged in a picture on Facebook, the apartment that I lived in, and all my friends also lived in this apartment. So it was basically like being in college. All of your friends were like a floor above you or a floor below you. They had a
Wonderful
dog
and
park.
trouble at the same time.
Yes. Yes, we would all like leave our doors unlocked. So, anybody can come over anytime. So it was like convenient at times, but also like, it was hard. It was just a hard situation to be in. Because there was so much temptation and so much, accessibility to social events and stuff like that. It really made it hard to say no, to, going out or whatever. But anyway, so the apartment complex had a dog park, and they decided to get like a kiddie pool in the middle of the summer and let all the dogs like play in the kiddie pool. So anyway, they had posted pictures of that event, and I have a dog, and my dog went. And I saw a picture of myself sitting in the background, and I didn't even realize that it was me. My legs were just so big. I felt like they were big, and just, I looked completely unhealthy. And I'm like, I can't believe that. Like, I went from someone who was fit in high school and in college, to now where I'm like, I'm embarrassed and I have to go and untag myself from this picture.
Yeah. And I think just that piece, you said I was fit, and then I looked at myself as unhealthy. And I think that's even more than just a weight aspect or just even an image aspect, but that's a true feeling. The feeling of being fit is a wonderful thing, because you can then do things and live life, but then the feeling of being unhealthy, can be a daunting
Right.
thing as well.
Yeah. And I knew like if I continued on that path of, drinking and eating unhealthy, like eventually it was going to have some health effects as well. So I just saw that and I was like, man, I need to make some sort of change. So that was sort of what sparked the whole journey.
Yeah. So now, I mean, environment, as we know, shapes so much of our behavior. And you talked about how, like, with a place like that, it was really hard to say no, and everyone was, socializing and drinking and everything. So do you kind of look at it as a blessing that you had to move and completely shift out of that environment, or do you still kind of miss that aspect? Because that probably changed almost your identity, so to speak, quite a bit, I would assume.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, I miss my friends and I still see them. So it was a apartment building in St. Louis, and then I ended up moving into a condo that was only like 15, or not even 15, probably 10 minutes away. So I was still able to hang out with my friends, but it was so much easier to say no once it was like, oh, I can't just walk upstairs or walk downstairs. Now I have to get in an Uber or drive over there. So that definitely helped a lot. I mean, there are days that I miss that convenience, but I'm just so much happier now than I was at that point.
Yeah, that's great. And so it sounds like you've found an amazing kind of group that is a new group of socialization within your gym setting and everything that you have there. So it seems like maybe you didn't even lose it. It just adopted a new, healthier form.
Yeah, I definitely adopted like healthier habits, and then just like how you mentioned, the environment that I'm in on a daily basis. It just shifted completely.
That's great. So now start walking us through just kind of the rest of the journey from, you joined Evolve back in right around September, and sounds like you did a phenomenal job, as I know they do. Anyone in the St. Louis area, they really are one of the best, of, just taking all your measurements and dialing and all these things and focusing on strength, and what kind of got you from 196 when you started there down to the 155 healthy where you're at now?
Yeah, so the way that Evolve was structured at the time that I joined was all new members joined an 8-week program. And in that program, they really teach you the foundations of the squat, bench, and deadlift. But you really start like body weight squats and working in kettlebells, and then eventually transitioning into like a trap bar deadlift, and then just a normal barbell deadlift. And also as part of that 8-week program, they really sat down, and the trainer that I was working with at the time, Trevor, he would talk to me about my nutrition. He would ask me, hey, like, what are you eating? You know, what did you have to eat today? And I would tell him, and he's like, okay, like, you're about to work out. Like, what are you going to eat after this? So there was just a dialogue around nutrition. And they would talk about, you know, what's a carb, what's a fat, what is protein, and they gave guidance on how to structure like your meals. So having protein, like a lean protein at every meal, vegetables, healthy fats, good sources of carbs. So it sort of shifted the mindset a little bit. And now that I have someone that I'm accountable to ask me, hey, what are you eating, you know, after you get out of here, it's a little bit harder to be like, oh, well, I'm actually going to go to like McDonald's and get a Big Mac or, you know, whatever I was eating at before that. So there was definitely that accountability. And also my trainer at the time, I think he saw in me that I was at a point that I wanted to make a change and I was ready and willing. And he had recommended that I read a book that he had just read, which was Forever Fat Loss by Ari Whitten. And part of the concepts in Ari's book is really how to make fat loss sustainable over time. So instead of focusing on, okay, now we're going to be keto or we're going to be paleo, what can people do to be consistent long term? And his plan is really just centered around eating whole foods and your carb sources mainly coming from fruit. Eating vegetables, eating protein with every meal. So I followed Ari's plan for about 2 months, and I saw really, really, really great results because I wasn't having to like count calories, count macros. It was all like intuitive based eating, but you had like a set list of foods that were recommended. So I did that, and then after reading Ari's book, I was really like wanting to learn more and just continue you know, feeding my brain with knowledge so that I could really make healthy decisions and really learn more about nutrition. So I began reading some of the books by Renaissance Periodization. So they had like a fat loss book. They had like a women's specific fat loss book. And they also have like one-on-one nutrition coaching and different like fat loss templates that you can purchase. So after reading the material, I decided, you know, oh, this sounds interesting. So I actually purchased one of their fat loss templates, and I did that for about 12 weeks. And I saw really great results with that, but I had a hard time transitioning from such strict dieting to what they would like, what we would consider like a maintenance diet. Sure. So that was difficult for me to go from so much structure to the way that they're set up is that once you get done with your, what they call your cut, then you move into maintenance, but you're still on the same, like you're still counting calories. So you're like, okay, great, my diet's over. But then what you transition into is still feels like a diet. So now I guess I do like a combination of like the theories behind Renaissance periodization and then a little bit of Ari's, but it just helped me get a better relationship with food. And now when I look at a menu, if I have to go out for work or socially, instead of seeing, you know, oh, here's a pizza, here's this, here's that, like I can look and say, okay, well, here's how I need to structure my meal. I know that I need lean proteins, I need chicken or salmon, or something similar to that. And then I know that I need vegetables of some sort, and I know that I need a carb. So it's really helped me form new habits.
That's so great. I love the fact that you took ownership is really what I was coming away with from all of that. And, you know, so often when I'm working with people or hearing people's success stories of any nature, it's the fact that they're taking ownership and gaining some knowledge and education of it for themselves and then putting action with it. And it's when action and education seem to meld together that results are almost inevitable. And so it sounds like, I mean, you said, I just wanted to feed my brain. and that you wanted the knowledge of why it was, which has probably made it easier to then dive into having it. And that's why you now have this awareness and can, like you said, piece together the meal that's going to suit you best based on everything. But it sounds like you're not depriving yourself in any way, or, staying away from certain foods completely. You're making it work and still enjoyable because it's now intuitive, because you've taken the time and done the due diligence of educating yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And it was interesting talking to my boyfriend about I'm going to be on this podcast, and here's what we're going to kind of talk about. And he was like, what's really interesting about you is that never in your weight loss journey, I've never been 100% in a given week. I've sort of looked at my diet or whatever, my journey, as something that is going to be long term, and I need it to be able to be sustainable. So I kind of look at my nutrition as a dial. So, if I want to have fun on the weekends, that's totally fine. But then I know that I need to turn up the dial during the week. If I know that I have an event coming up and we're going to be at a Cardinals game or whatever, that, meals leading up to that probably need to be more dialed in. So that way I have some flexibility later in the week or in the day or what have you.
Sure. Yeah. I love the dial analogy. That's great.
Yeah. So I try to, be about 80% healthy and then 20% of my meals off plan. Right now I'm a little bit more dialed in. I'm probably more 90-10, and I'll continue. I've done that for the past couple of weeks, and I'll probably continue that for a few more weeks, and then I'll dial it back again.
That's awesome. And then what are you kind of using to know that you're within that realm? Are you evaluating based on scale weight, or just feeling now at this point? Is it based on how your performance is in the gym? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so I still use the scale. I probably weigh myself a little bit more than I should, but I weigh myself every day, and that just gives me a good idea of where I am. I usually take an average of the week, and then that's how I kind of measure where I am. And then I do I do the circumference measurements, and then I'll do my body fat. I test that once a month right now while I'm trying to dial it back in, just to get an idea of, am I on track? Am I off track? Yep. I don't do a lot of macro tracking. So
yeah, it sounds like you don't need to at this point, and you're kind of using, the scale and these other metrics as a way to say what gets measured gets results. And it's not like you're set on a certain number by any means with any of these things, but they're almost like bumper guards, and you're going to continue to bowl, and sometimes you're going to hit a strike, and sometimes you're not going to knock down as many pins, but at least you're not going to go off into the gutter ever again because you've got this structure in place.
Right. Yes, for sure.
Cool. So I want to hear more about where you're at with fitness, because I know you're lifting some heavy stuff, and kind of curious how that all transpired and where you're going with that now.
Yeah. So after, I guess, going back to when I was in the 8-week programs that evolve, after you transition out of the 8-week programs, you transition into the group classes, and the group classes are run by a trainer named Ben Miller, and he is a powerlifter. He powerlifts competitively. So his workouts have a little bit more of a powerlifting flair to them. So I did the group classes with Ben for probably, from February of 2017 until December of 2017. And I just kept seeing that I was getting stronger and stronger. And one of the girls that I was also in the group class with, she was competitively powerlifting as well. And they both were like, hey, you should really think about signing up for a powerlifting meet. My numbers were pretty close to what her numbers were. And it kind of gave me that competitive edge because she was doing it as well. So I decided to just sign up for my first powerlifting meet in December of 2017. And I competed in May of 2018. That was my first competition. And I placed third in my weight class in that meet, and qualified for raw nationals in the USAPL. And then I competed again in December of 2018. And now I'm preparing for my third competition in June.
Huge congrats. That's so awesome. It probably takes you a little bit back to the athlete that you were able to be all through high school and college.
Yes, for sure. It definitely gives me, something to work towards. There are obviously days where I don't necessarily want to be in the gym, or I'm tired or whatever, but I know that I have that end goal, and that meet coming up that I need to prepare for. So that, like, knowing that a competition is coming, keeps me in the gym sometimes.
Absolutely. I often tell people, if you're really struggling to maintain consistency, because how often do we really feel like working out? At least for me, it's not that often. I just would rather feel healthy and better at the end of the day. And so that's why I check the box and just get it done. But, I often tell people, like, setting these external goals, so often we want it to be all intrinsically motivated and all coming from within. But at the same time, there's a reason 5Ks, powerlifting meets, Spartan races, these things hold a wonderful, valuable place for keeping us striving and working along the way when we might otherwise hit a slump that would put us away. And I think, especially with you being a former athlete, it taps into that and the competitive edge and everything. So it sounds like you've found something that can entertain all of those aspects of life for the next little journey, for sure.
Yeah, that would definitely be my recommendation to anyone, is to find a workout that they enjoy doing. 'Cause like you said, sometimes it's really hard to motivate yourself. So if you don't like what you're doing, you're going to be way less likely to convince yourself to go into the gym, compared to doing something that you really enjoy. And I just fell in love with getting stronger. And, my goals shifted. So when I was first starting my weight loss journey, like, fat loss was my goal, and losing fat was all that I cared about, and being healthier. And then my mindset kind of shifted, and losing weight has just been a side effect of my habits and of my goal of getting stronger. Which is
that's a line that we're going to have to highlight for people. I fell in love with getting stronger, because I always say, like, you can't go wrong with strong. Like, if you want to improve anything, you can't go wrong with strong. It helps everything. But the fact that you said losing weight was a byproduct of my habits and getting stronger, because so often we're chasing weight. And I tell people, hey, what you chase runs. And, you mentioned you don't like the cardio aspect. I'm not sure too many sports team athletes do, because it was used as punishment for a lot of us back in high school. So, losing weight as a byproduct, that's powerful. So that's great to hear. So it definitely sounds like it was easier once you started just focusing on these other pieces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I stopped really obsessing over the scale, and instead started obsessing, I guess is a bad word, but obsessing over my lifts and my form and my technique, and seeing those things improve week over week. It's addicting. I'm completely addicted to powerlifting and to getting strong, and I've been fortunate that losing weight has been, a part of that.
Yeah, that's great. And I hear what you're saying about the obsession over the scale. And there's some people I say, like, we're not even going to touch the scale because it can have a negative implication for someone. But at the same time, sometimes a little bit of obsession can be a wonderful thing. It's why, certain businesses are born, and it's what probably got you that initial jump start. You were obsessed with the right thing, which was that educational piece to understand. And then you were able to step away, and obviously you're a little bit of an obsessive person and addictive personality type, since now you're doing that with powerlifting. So I can completely relate with that type of personality. So, but it sounds like you're really in tune with yourself and channeling it into the right things.
Yeah, for sure.
So last question, What do you think is like the number one thing that someone on the other side of this podcast, who's sitting here, maybe where you were, they had a picture taken of them, saw themselves and went, oof, that's not me. I don't recognize that person. I was a former athlete. What happened? And maybe they're sitting at that number when they realize, what do you think is the advice that they need to hear most, or the system or the action? What is it you would want to tell that person, or even your former self looking back?
I think if I could tell like my former self looking back, it would be to just like get started and just try different things. There's not one diet that works for everyone. I think that, you need to experiment with different things, and your body may respond to something that someone else's body doesn't, or something might work for you that doesn't work for someone else. But find something that you're able to be consistent with over time. It's really easy to try to do the diet fads and try to lose weight fast, but if you do it in the right way and the slow way, which isn't very exciting sometimes, it's a lot easier to maintain over time. Would be my advice.
Excellent advice. Go the slow way, learn everything you can, know that there's no one direction only, and find a training program that you love. I think that is spot on.
Yes, and hire a coach. That would be my other recommendation. It makes it so much easier when someone else is holding you accountable. That would be my other recommendation.
I absolutely agree. And I think that's why even the greatest coaches have coaches. We all can learn and grow, and accountability is such a gift.
Yes.
Well, wonderful. Lexi, appreciate you for coming on the show. Your results are incredible. Advice has been amazing, and beyond excited for your next powerlifting meet that's going to be coming up. So for everyone that's listening, we'll be linking the resources that she plugged in, talking about RE and RP for nutrition. We'll plug in Doug and Evolve Fitness in St. Louis if anybody's in that area, so that way everyone's hooked up with anything they need. But again, thank you, Lexi, for coming on the show, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you for having me.
All right, my friends, thanks again for listening to another great episode. Now, I do have one request. If you know of someone that's got a amazing success story, or if you know of a transformational coach or transformation authority figure with insights and lessons that need to be shared, we'd love to talk to any of these people. There's a good chance we can have them on one of the next episodes, and they continue to help us all grow as we continue to unveil the truth of what it takes to truly transform. Last thing, love for you to head on over to iTunes and hit that 5-star review button. Helps to get this message out and continue to transform more lives. As always, my friends, Coach Joseph Hawthorne, peace be the journey.